The cinema is utterly dominated by large corporate-made movies turned out by the Hollywood dream machine. In spite of their massive budgets and huge teams, these often come out terrible regardless.
Fortunately, there is an independent market, and there are thousands of movies made outside the system. It's never been easier to make your own movie, and more people are taking advantage of that.
Sometimes you can find a movie made by an independent crew on a shoestring budget that blows you away. Sometimes the necessity for perseverance and invention drives these pictures to greatness.
But unfortunately, not every one of them can be Clerks. Sometimes the spirit is willing, but gosh darn it, the flesh just isn't able.
And no sentence sums up the choreography in the following film better. From the heartland of America, Salvation.
Salvation is the story of two Knights Templar who died in the 1300s. Instead of moving on to their reward, they were chosen by heaven to be the bipartisan angels of death. One to take the souls to heaven, the other to actually do most of the work.
Well, it's not actually. It's actually supposed to be about a woman who is killed when she is a child, but still grows up for some reason. She's being groomed to take over as a new angel of death and get revenge on her murderers.
But not really. When it all comes down to it, the movie's actually about a man named Ben Bayliss and his insurmountable ability to wield a bladed weapon.
Our story begins on October 13th, 1307, at scenic some church in Oklahoma, France.
Jeez, what is this, aerodemic?
The entire sequence is a confusing way to let us know that people are dying unconvincingly and that two of them will be important somehow. In the future, one of them will remind herself of the day she died by reciting the Lord's Prayer while wearing goth contacts. Guess which one? That's right, the manly one.
We're going to make this a little easier to follow because, trust me, these establishing scenes are a hot mess.
This woman is married to a mob boss and is carrying the child of one of his underlings. The man in the car is a hitman sent by said mobster because he found out that she was banging his accountant.
The bad guy angel intends to collect their souls, both mother and child. Good guy angel, henceforth to be called Leather Mom, wants to save the child's life.
What is the bad guy angel's name, anyway?
It's Melchizedek.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. Leather Mom offers to exchange her soul for the child and teleports her out of her mother's womb via sparkling fun-time angel magic.
I hope you appreciate how easy we made this for everyone to follow, because we had to watch this like 3 times to put all of that shit together.
This movie does suffer from some fairly confusing transitions. For instance, the next scene takes place 8 years in the future, where the baby we just saw birth via instant transmission Kamehameha is now having a picnic with her dad.
So we're still not up to speed. The man is her father, whom we'll assume received her from Leather Mom. I'd love to have heard that conversation.
Hi.
Sup?
This is your baby. I took it out of your lover. She's dead now.
The devil, you say?
Yep, shot dead by a mob dude.
Sure she didn't die when you pulled her child prematurely from her womb?
Nah, didn't make no cuts. Angel magic. I'm an angel, by the way.
Really?
Yep.
Neat.
The two of them suddenly appear in the middle of a scenic field, best described as literally anywhere Midwest, in a broken-down Jeep. Leather Mom is just kind of hanging around, angeling it up nearby.
A group of bikers come down the road and confront Nameless Dad about the fact that he banged their boss's wife and stole a shitload of money from him. Being as the lady is 8 years dead, the money thing is the only part that's actually noted.
They kill him and then turn on the strangely not terrified daughter. Seriously, I wish I had balls as big as this chick. She has nerves of steel. 8 years old, threatened by 4 giant beleathered motorcycle thugs right next to her father who they just murdered in front of her, and she seems completely unfazed.
They box her in, and the angel stands around with her thumb up her ass while the thugs rape and kill her. Oh, wait, did you just do a double take? So did I when this fact was announced, much later in the film.
This is some pretty heavy content for a movie that otherwise seems like some dude sat down and wrote a script based off the most boring game of Innomine that he ever played.
Either way, the scene doesn't even hint at what's happening. When you see the girl, she doesn't even have fake blood on her face or anything. There's no way to know that she's actually even dead. For all we can tell, the information her eyes and ears have been picking up finally reached her brain, and she reacted by fainting.
Actually, I'm almost convinced that the bikers simply gave her such a menacing that her body spontaneously raped and killed itself out of sheer terror.
Hey, do you remember the Newlydeads? Do you remember healing from whiplash caused by a 15-year scene jump where only one character aged in any noticeable way?
Boom! 15 years later. You know, this movie actually might be slightly connected to the Newlydeads.
What makes you say that?
Well, the main character is aged through the 15-year gaps in both movies.
At this point, we're finally introduced to the movie and its characters. Meet Michaela, who is all grown up now, somehow.
Seriously, I want to know how that happens. I want to know how a goddamn ghost grows up. I want some answers. Who's got them? American Horror Story? Beloved? One of you bastards had better damn well tell me how a ghost continues to age when it's dead.
Hell, even Anne Rice figured out that dead people don't grow up, and she couldn't even figure out that her characters were male.
Michaela is being trained by Leathermom to be an angel of death, mostly by talking. Get used to that. They mostly just sit around and talk.
But she's not very convincing. She talks about it in a tone that sounds more like the kids at Taco Bell forgot that she specifically asked for extra cheese on her goddamn Nacho Bel Grande.
I was the one who was murdered. I was the one who was raped.
She also finds out that she's being groomed to revenge herself on her attackers, but not really. You see, revenge is not part of the Jet Angel way. Fear, hate, these things lead to the Melchizedek.
Yeah, apparently Jesus wasn't fucking around when he delivered the turn the other cheek humdinger.
Michaela is intended to forgive and redeem her attackers. Whatever. We've got better things to think about.
Yeah, like doing their job. It turns out that some people occasionally do go to heaven, so Leathermom and the Grudge head to a church where the friendly local preacher is getting ready to croak.
How do we know? Well, because he can see Michaela and Gabriel. Only people on the verge of death can see them. It's cool, though. He's old and tired of being a priest, so they just stab him in the chest and get on with things.
You know, I just thought of something. Leathermom is the good guy angel who takes people to heaven, right? So why is it that we only see her just hanging around not doing anything, but Melchizedek is constantly taking souls, and rarely on camera? He's presumably busy.
The rarity of Gabriel's actions lends credence to the theory that only 4,400 are going to get in. This world's kind of depressing.
Getting back on topic. The Grudge is super upset that she had to be the hand that brought an end to the kindly old man's confusing non sequiturs. Gabriel tries to tell her that guilt over killing a man will lead to the dark side.
She bolts because somebody in this movie has to have at least one reasonable reaction. This leaves Gabriel and Melchizedek to blankly stare and snidely quip at each other.
Oh no, it's time for the fight scene.
And holy shit, what a fight scene it is. This is what we were talking about earlier when we made reference to Ben Bayliss and his outstanding feats of martial prowess. Seriously, check this shit out.
No matter what she does, he is unfazed and untouched. No matter how hard she haltingly swings or how fiercely she holds a sword uselessly above her.
No matter how clumsily she wobbles in his general direction, no matter how slowly she levies an attack, Ben is prepared and already has an answer to her strategy.
Eventually they just decide to stop because, as Melchizedek points out, he and Leathermom have done this more than 8 billion times already.
Wait a minute. 8 billion? 8 billion duels? They died in 1307, and in the movie it's 2007. That means they would have had to duel approximately 22 times per minute for the past 700 years.
You know what, Ben Bayliss? I don't think your math skills are as sharp as the Named Blade that is straight of hue and fraternally loved.
Wait a minute. Ben Bayliss has a true sword? Like one of the legendary Named Blades that houses spirit and carry a warrior as truly as the warrior carries they?
Indeed. He is the bearer of Phallosteel, the flashing pride of the man-child.
My god! Here I thought he was just another dorky Ren Fair geek.
No, my friend. Ben Bayliss is the dorky Ren Fair geek. The dorky Ren Fair geek.
Elsewhere, Michaela is found by the sheriff, who is observant enough to see the invisible apprentice Angel of Death, but not enough to notice that a necklace he's holding fucking vanishes into thin air.
You can see me?
Yeah.
I bet you're saying, oh shit, he gonna die, like we did. Well, we were all wrong.
Sheriff Dade?
Holy shit! That is the most hillbilly name that I've ever heard, and I went to school with people named Patty Ann and Bobby Joe. It's hard to tell if they intend this guy to be the best or the worst cop in the world.
He first shows up at Michaela and her father's murder scene, where he immediately pronounces the man dead from like 20 feet away. He's so good that he can just tell there's no life in him. He then manages to miss that there's a briefcase with a glaringly obvious false bottom 1 meter from the body.
He also hasn't aged a day in 15 years, so that leaves me to wonder if it isn't another agent of God. Maybe that's why he can see her and knows the cause of people's death.
Looks like a heart attack.
I mean, look at this. He just knows that the old man died of a heart attack. Holy balls. That is some seriously prescient criminal intuition. What is up with this fucking guy?
Dade buys her story about living with her aunt for the past 15 years, because in this world, unsolved cases are unsolved because they go completely without investigation.
Sheriff fails to notify next of kin, drops her off at the hotel where she and her mentor live. Oh, also, it's where the leader of the biker gang that killed and violated her lives. I guess they spent all the budget on the amazing fight coordinator and couldn't quite bankroll the rest of the hotel suite.
We're treated to way too many moments of what happens at an airport before being introduced to one of the greatest characters in the movie. He's a hitman for the Russian mob named Pietro. He doesn't have any kind of accent other than bad acting.
He's also the gunman who killed Michaela's mom, and yet somehow he is clearly younger than her. In addition to all of that, he's my favorite guy who isn't Ben Bayless. Seriously, you can't make an actor this bad on purpose. It takes real anti-talent to deliver lines like this.
Where's the limo? I want it here as soon as possible.
The bikers, who also haven't aged a day in 15 years, are getting antsy because one of them thinks that the little girl they killed years ago has somehow come back from the grave. You might ask how he knows this. Well, once again, you are foolish. Salvation is fully prepared to punish you for your presumptuousness.
We killed her. We split that bitch in two.
Whoa, what did that guy just say? They're high-fiving each other over raping and killing an 8-year-old girl and saying, "We split that bitch in half" in a congratulatory manner?
Well, you know what? I'm cool with that. By this point, we've established these guys as being about as reprehensible as possible, so I have no sympathy for them. I heartily condone whatever horrible fate awaits them.
The gang leader heads home to his apartment. You know, everyone else in this movie has a cute nickname. This guy probably should have one too. Since he's apparently the worst human being on the planet, let's call him something appropriately awful.
What's the most disgusting, ass-related slang term that you can think of to describe someone with such little regard for women? Limbaugh.
So Pietro goes to rough Limbaugh up over some money they failed to get back from Michaela's father. Back at the scene of the crime, Michaela and Leathermom are trying to get her suitcase open. Wait, what the fucking fuck?
The car is still there. Hasn't developed any rust, tire rot, or vandalism, and the suitcase is there as well, unmolested. It's been 15 years. How did it get locked? The idiot bike monsters had it open and I presume didn't spin the tumbler when they tossed it carelessly aside.
For that matter, how did the false bottom stay in place when they tossed it? How did these career criminals manage to miss such an obvious false bottom? It's like half of the case!
They must call this bike gang 1%ers because that's the percentage of their brain they use. Holy shit, these villains suck.
This is only going to get more unbelievable. Melchizedek is working with Pietro, whom he instructs to kill the mob boss Vladimir. He won't. He's never in the movie.
Pietro is trying to find Michaela as he is convinced that she is the key to finding the lost mob money. The 4 worst men are also expected to find her and bring her in, even though they know that she has been dead for 15 years.
We split that bitch in two.
Leathermom decides it's time to begin breaking in the new guy, which apparently involves the most hardcore hazing in the book. Damn.
What is the deal with this? She's teaching her what hell is like by stabbing her in the gut while she ushers her into a job that she never actually asked for and that has been established several times to be not what she hopes it is.
Her birth is punctuated by a bullet in her mother's brain, her death involves rape, and her passage into the status of angel involves a sword being thrust into her belly. Is this supposed to be symbolic of something? Why is every important moment of this chick's life violent penetration?
Well, good news. We're working our way to the 54-minute mark. After 15 years of raising this girl to be her replacement, Gabriel has decided that maybe she should be taught how to wield a blade so that she can defend herself from Ben Bayless. Good luck with that!
You know, I think this sort of thing would have been part of her training from the get-go. Like a squire, but what the hell. There's an easy way for the girl to go from just a beginner to a pro. We're gonna need a montage.
said. Now that Michaela is as awkwardly clumsy with a blade as Leather Mom, she can fulfill her destiny and punish the bikers who brutalized her so many years ago and left her kind of nonplussed about the whole affair.
God damn it. We should point out that this movie really stresses that God is all-forgiving and wants everybody to have their fair chance to get into heaven.
Michaela's divine mission as angel of death for good people isn't to punish the villains who murdered her, but rather to redeem them. Wait, is that the point? Is this a test? But that would mean that her parents' deaths and her savage brutalization at the hands of desperate and apparently balls-out crazy fucking criminals was organized by heaven. Is that why Gabriel was there to kidnap her immortal soul and stood by doing nothing to save her from what happened? That's even more fucked up, movie.
Sigh, whatever. The Grudge is Leather Cougar now, and it's time for the long-awaited revenge sequence. With the craziness of their crimes, I'd expect this to get as brutal as I spit on your grave.
Wait a minute. She's got a drink. Who served her that drink? Is the bartender fated to die? Is this small-town Oklahoma bar so cosmopolitan that it doesn't notice when a patron is strapped with twin katana?
Oh, don't mind her. She just lost on the way to the goth club down on a nearby street that is named after a state presidential tree.
She teleports the bikers out and kills them, one by one. Half of them repent, the other two refuse. None of them die satisfactorily.
Super Cop arrives on the scene in response to a call of many mysteriously dead bikers just kind of hanging out.
Man, this town is just... These people are literally just hanging out at a bar and there is a dead guy on the floor. He's right there!
No one even bats an eye. The bartender listens to him come up with some insane spot sleuthing, then casually asks if the coroners are going to take the dead guys out of her bar. Apparently, this might hurt business.
Using his amazing cop skills, he figures out 4 minus 1 is 3, and that leads him to leave in search of their leader.
Whatever. The Civs can deal with a pile of dead biker. I'm just so numb now.
If you're looking for something surprising, then you're in luck here, because somehow the leader of the bikers has committed suicide. He killed himself trimming his whiskers.
Wow, talk about a close shave.
Melchizedek is elsewhere, meeting with the Grudge about money? I'm honestly not even sure at this point.
By the power of suddenly jumping from post-production to on-set audio, he manages to somehow trick Michaela into killing Pietro. This never gets less confusing.
Michaela's very angry about this, so they have a sword fight. Well, that's kind of a misnomer in this case. More accurately, Ben Bayless has a sword out, and Heather Serticon proves that she's even worse with a blade than J.A. Steele.
At this point, we should clarify that when we make fun of J.A. Steele's sword fightery, that is all we're making fun of. She is apparently an accomplished marksman and kind of a badass. Inigo Montoya, however, she is not.
The fight ends predictably, but Gabriel appears and takes the bullet for Michaela? Is that how you'd say it? What's the term for pulling a Mercutio, anyway?
Gabriel's going to die. Not a dry eye shall remain during the opening the scroll scene.
The note from His Excellency.
But the sorrow shall turn to joy, as the scroll is totally not translated into English, and the angel just dies.
My Latin is plebeian at best, but as far as I can tell it's an absolution for her sins and is indicative of her ascension into heaven. By Pope Innocent in 1437. Yeah, she's apparently been saved since 150 years after she died, and God just neglected to tell her about it. How's that feel, Gabriel?
Seems like you're totally flying under the big guy's radar. Burn, Knight of the Temple!
So now Gabriel is in heaven, Michaela is the angel of death, and Melchizedek is somewhere else?
The sheriff tells her the FBI wants her to answer some questions, but rather than comply, she gives him a watch and then Batman's out of the scene.
And that is salvation. So how is it?
Well, it's actually kind of awesome. Aside from some small problems with pacing, and some large problems with pacing, and some confusing narrative, it's surprisingly high quality for what it is.
It definitely feels like a, hey, check out this film me and my buddy made kind of project, but the production values are really high for what it is.
Small studios like theirs need your support and deserve your attention.
Yeah, I know we usually rip into these movies pretty hard, but I just don't feel this one deserves it.
If this film had been made by a major press studio, or even a scrub operation like Asylum Pictures, we would probably tear it apart.
This movie was made by people for the sheer sake of cinema, and in spite of that, I think they did an admirable job.
I'm inclined to agree. Warrior Entertainment and Tier Productions definitely deserve your attention, and you should probably check them out.
Holy shit.